been lost to land clearing in just the last 2 decades. The findings are published in the journal Current Biology. One of the report's contributors is Kendall Jones from the University of Queensland. He joins us now from Brisbane. Kendall Jones, humans have been altering the landscape for millennia. This study points, though, to a considerable acceleration in the loss of wilderness.
Yeah, so we analysed wilderness loss from the 1990s until now, and we found that during that short period we've lost 1/10 of all wilderness around the globe. That's a massive area. It's about the same size as Western Australia and New South Wales combined.
Why is it happening, and for what purpose is the land being cleared? Are these new wilderness areas being created and conserved on the other side of the ledger as well?
Well, wilderness loss is happening for a multitude of reasons. It's happening for forest clearing, for timber products and timber-based goods. Agricultural land is being cleared. Forests being cleared for pasture, and also for mining of fossil fuels and minerals. And on the other hand, you can't really create new wilderness areas to sort of offset the loss that you're doing, or the loss that's happening. Wilderness is defined as naturally intact areas that are uninfluenced by human activities, and once they're gone forever. If you destroy wilderness, you're losing areas that have been evolving in that place for hundreds of millions of years. It's kind of like a species going extinct.
I see that one of the bright spots in this report has been that most wilderness areas that were calculated are still made up of large contiguous blocks, which is environmentally significant for their size.
Yeah, that's right. So we found that about 80% of remaining wilderness is found in blocks of 10,000 kilometres squared or more. And that's great because those large blocks can act as the last strongholds for some of the world's most threatened biodiversity. And some of the great megafauna we see around the world, like lions, tigers, elephants, they need those large intact spaces to live. And they also can help species adapt to climate change and disease because they contain a lot of genetic variation within those large intact landscapes.
Take us through some of the specifics of which parts of the world are worst affected and how Australia compares.
Well, unfortunately, it's some of the most biodiverse places in the world which were most hardest hit. So the Amazon, for example, lost over 30% of its wilderness. And Central Africa, home to iconic species like the chimpanzee, the gorilla, lost 15%. So these are some of the most biodiverse and species-rich places on the planet, and they're also under the most threat. Australia does contain some significant areas, like we have the largest intact savanna landscape in the world and the largest intact Mediterranean woodland system in the world, but unfortunately Australia's been heavily modified already, so there's not a large amount of wilderness left apart from in the centre where there's a desert and not that many people.
One of the aims of this study was to also measure how conservation policy keeps up with the loss of wilderness. What have you found?
So yeah, unfortunately, again, we found that while wilderness protection did actually protect wilderness in the 20 years, we found that it was about half the rate of wilderness loss. So we're destroying double what we're protecting.
And what are the consequences of that?
The consequences of that are many. The wilderness is incredibly important for biodiversity, obviously, so when you destroy it, you're losing biodiversity. But it's also important for people. Large intact landscapes support indigenous cultures and traditional ways of life around the globe. And finally, it's important for climate change. These large intact landscapes, they capture and store massive amounts of carbon. And when they're destroyed, that carbon's released into the atmosphere. And it contributes to climate change, the effects of which we're already seeing with month after month and year after year of continuous temperature records being broken. Yeah.
Kendall Jones, it's good to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jeremy.